March 11th, 2014. Roll call.
Dickman here.
Johnston here.
Carrillo here.
Scafidi here.
Malsky here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Item 2 is significant common council actions. Carrie?
Common Council approved 2 ordinances, one amending the planned unit development and general development plan for Oakview Business Park, and one amending the location of the build-to zone in figures 4A and 4B of the general development plan and regulating plan for the Drexel Town Square mixed-use plan development district. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Item 3A is a request for a temporary use permit. It's a review of a request for temporary use permit submitted by Nick Timber of Reality Check LLC for a seasonal Halloween attraction on the property located at 1720 West Elm Road, tax key number 953-9993-000. Carrie.
The applicant is requesting approval for a seasonal haunted attraction on property owned by Stephen Spadell at 1720 West Elm. Proposal includes...
Hold on 1 second, Carrie, please.
Yes.
You got an audio problem. Okay. Is it rewound?
No, my alert's coming.
Good? Yep. All right, resume, Carrie.
Okay, this is a temporary use permit request for a seasonal haunted attraction, which includes a queue tent, 6 haunted mazes, parking for approximately 116 vehicles, concessions, games, and portable sanitary facilities. This is proposed to be held October 3rd through November 1st between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. The applicant expects a maximum of 200 attendees per night, with approximately 31 volunteers who will staff the property. There will be 3 generators providing lighting and electricity as needed. There have been several concerns raised by staff for traffic and noise, as the use is proposed off of a residential street, and attraction attendees must pass 6 homes before turning onto the proposed site. And then there is another home that would be right across from the access to this site. The request also includes constructing new stone exit drive immediately across from that 7th home on Elm. There are concerns also for safety and emergency response, which I'd like to then ask the Assistant Fire Chief to address. And finally, concerns for erosion control. Parking for the site is proposed on grass instead of an impervious surface. So considering the time of year being October to the beginning of November, there is the potential for erosion of the land and tracking of mud onto the city street. No contingency plans to address these potentialities have been submitted to date. We also did receive a letter from a landowner who was not able to make it tonight in opposition of the proposed request.
Who was that?
That is Michael McNew of 1518 West Elm Road.
Okay. The letter will be put into the record.
Okay. The staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission not approve the temporary use as proposed. If the Plan Commission is okay with that, I'd like to pass it on to Mike Kresick.
Certainly. Go ahead, Mike.
Good evening. As indicated in the report, there are several concerns from the fire department side on this particular matter. I'd like to commend the applicant, though. He's been very open with the fire department. He did reach out to us initially and provided us with a significant amount of information. There is a list of code items that we would need to go through and have in place prior to the fire department granting an occupancy with this. I think rather than me going through that list piece by piece, I would be willing to answer questions as they come up from the commission on those.
Okay. Questions from the commission? Alderman Mahowski.
I didn't,
Oh, the button came up.
thank you.
Did you press it again?
Oh, that's me.
Oh,
Oh, okay. You got
Why
the
would that
wrong-
show?
Because
All right.
you got it on council.
Commissioner Chandler.
Is there a representative here for this? I have a question for you. Can you come up to the mic?
Hello, my name is Andrew Barr. My mom's family was, I'm sorry, maybe I should just go This is pathetic. I don't have a problem with this gentleman wanting to do this stuff. I don't know why we're wasting our time. I don't know how much you guys make per day.
How is any of that relevant?
How is this relevant?
First of all, the applicant has a right to make the request.
I live across the street
Understood.
from where
And I
this
respect your
person
right,
wants
and
to
I
do it.
respect your right to speak, but the
What?
applicant has a right to make a request. The plan commission will review the request. If it's denied, it's denied. If it's approved, it's approved. I respect your right to speak. Now you can speak.
I don't know if I want to talk to you.
That's your right to do whatever you want.
My mom's father, we owned the land that PPG bought, and they screwed my parents over.
It's going to be denied. Let him.
That's not relevant to this discussion.
So why, I'm out of here. You guys,
You're welcome to stay as long as you like. I'm just telling you, there's a process we have to go through. It's a legal process that we have to do here, whether you like it or not. Would the applicant please come up?
get you paid today, doing jack shit. Goodbye.
Name and address for the record.
Yes, hi, this is Nick Timber, manager of Reality Check LLC.
My question, actually, I have a couple.
Go ahead.
First, where did the idea come from, and did you have any communication with neighborhood about this? And
Absolutely. Well, I figured that'd be the number one topic is, where did this come from? It's a haunted house, pretty bizarre and different. So it actually started in middle school. I was volunteering with the Leo's Club here with Oak Creek, and we did a volunteer thing over at Stacy's Farm, which is a haunted cornfield. And from there, I knew that I loved Halloween. I just loved the experience. I had so much fun. This is what I want to do. And then from there, I took it to my driveway. So for trick-or-treaters and stuff like that, we'd put on little scenes, just like a tent. Friends would come over, we all dress up. And then the neighborhoods would just come, and they'd just crowd around our driveway just to watch us. And then from there, I knew I outgrew the driveway, and I wanted to do something a little bit bigger. So I then took it over to the cellar on Oakwood, and I presented the Haunted Timber Trails. And then there, it was all for charity, and I was in high school at this time. And my first year, when I did it, it was just for 1 weekend, a Friday and Saturday, and we just did food for the Salvation Army food drive. And we ended up raising 2 55-gallon drums of food for them. So then the second year ended up being a total flop, unfortunately. We got rained out both weekends we had planned. And so then brought us to our third year, which we ended up raising $2,200 for Habitat for Humanity. And then I knew I was onto something. A lot of people enjoyed it. So I then decided to back off, not do it again, because if it got bigger, I think it would have been out of control. So I then started to learn the business a little bit better. And then from there, I ended up working at the Wisconsin Fairgrounds. And I was actually very close with the owner there. And he was the former president of the Haunted Association. And so he taught me everything. And he taught me all the safety and everything. And then he saw something in me and came up to me one day and said, you know, Nick, I want you to be my successor. I want you to take over this haunted house. It was a success. It was a #1 haunted house for 9 years inside Wisconsin, and also a #1 must-see haunted house inside America. Unfortunately, that was not the kind of haunt I wanted to do. I want to do more of a quality outdoor Halloween experience. So, which then brings me to where I am here today. I now have the proposal, and I'm trying to do my own. And then to answer your second question, was I in contact with the neighbors? I did end up sending a letter out to each of them. It was maybe February 25th, maybe a little bit sooner. I sent out a letter, personal letter with multiple contact information to each of them, expressing exactly what was going to go on there, and to please voice their concerns to me via any of the contact information below. February 28th. Oh, thank you. February 28th.
Does that answer your question? Commissioner Dickman.
Well, first of all, I'd like to commend you for, what you're trying to do here. And I know there are a lot of, there are haunted house establishments all around. I don't know how many there are, but every year you see them advertised. But I guess I do have a few concerns. And one of them is it says you expect a maximum of 200 per night. I don't know how you could figure that out, because if I know how kids go and they start calling one another, this could certainly get out of control in a hurry. And secondly, the part about do you have to clear approximately 3.7 acres of area on the property, and then you're going to park on grass and on some of this area that was cleared, and then you're going to have just a driveway which is going in, which also the fire department has to use if something occurs, or the police department does. They're going to have to use this. So I'm concerned about the parking on the site. I'm concerned about going, past the homes. And if you look outside tonight with the rain, and if you hit that, then you still have it. We're going to have a real mess on our hands with mud and parking and things of that type. So those are some of my concerns.
All right. Is it all right if I respond?
Sure, and
Go ahead.
then I
Yeah,
have some
we're here
comments.
for. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. I just want to start off with the woods. There was actually a misinterpretation there. When on our proposed plans, we will clear wooded and brush areas as we see fit. What we mean there is we were not trying to level the woods at all. We actually want to keep it because that's part of the experience, is creating this realm here. We just want to clear up some sticks and brushes within our fenced area, just so there's a clear pathway for everyone to walk through. And then yes, we have you said our next issue was parking. And inside, I have an emergency procedure reference guide. And I think it's my number one thing is inclement weather right there after the front title page. And I talk about how before we open up, we will then walk the grounds, make sure everything is safe, everything is okay. If it's after night, nothing got damaged. We would also then look around for the inclement weather and stuff like that and see if we're able to open, because if that parking lot's flooded, chances are our whole haunt's flooded and we will not be able to open, because we don't want cars getting stuck. We're not going to try and force anything to open up here and then have 30 cars stuck here and then, God forbid, an emergency happens. I don't want that at all. We would then check the land and make sure everything would be okay before we opened. And I did look at the topography of the land, and better than that, I did also then go on there when we had major flooding last year, right around September and November. And I walked the whole grounds. I couldn't find any flooding inside there. It actually just seems to all run down to the southwest of the property, and then which is actually off the property into the field next door. And I walked the whole thing with just regular shoes on, and I didn't get actually any mud on them. So, and then you also then brought up the 200 people per night. And actually on the application I put through, I did state on the bottom, there is no supporting data. It is an opening year. We don't know. So the number I decided to go with was what our goal number is, how many people we want. So this isn't just a lowball figure, just kind of put it through and say, hey, we're only gonna have 200. This is just a number it's like if we have 200 per night, we've reached our goal. And so to me, that's the maximum number of people that we would expect. But yeah, things could get out of hand, and I am in talk with Sergeant York with the police department, and we were talking about that, and he said he only had one concern, and it's if parking somehow filled up that whole parking lot and then flooded somehow down the street onto 13th Street. So, but with only expecting 200 people per night, that breaks down to about 50 people an hour. And since no one goes to a haunt by themselves, they usually have a buddy. That's about 25 cars then per hour. And then, which then breaks down to about one car every 2 minutes. And that's using the bare minimal 2 people per car. Usually people come in groups of 3 and 4.
All right.
So,
You good? All right, thanks for the answer. Here's my concerns. No doubt you're a sincere applicant, and you are interested in Halloween and having a really cool Halloween celebration. You're trying to locate it on a quiet residential street.
yeah.
Which is not going to want, if I lived there, I would not want to see that kind of traffic going down my street for a period of however many weeks that was. Your site is problematic. You're going to have water issues. It's fall, that typically you're going to have mud and all the things Commissioner Dickman talked about. But ultimately, you're sticking this thing in an area that's remote, and it doesn't provide, I think, safety and security for the people that are actually that would go to the event. It's not an area that's easily monitored. It's pretty secluded, and you're disrupting the quality of life for the people that have invested all of those years that have lived there all that time. You understand that?
Yes, I absolutely
So
understand.
while there's no doubt in my mind that you would probably be very good at what you're trying to do here, it's not the right place.
Yeah, and that was the number one concern coming in. And I know we did run a lot of sound tests actually out there on the field the other day with the decibel reader meter, and nothing got over a normal conversation for the noise actually out there. So, and then like I said, for traffic, one car every 2 minutes, and that's reaching our goal. And I know we have more than sufficient parking on the property. So
We have some more questions from the commission. Alderman Mahowski.
Okay. first off, I do have concerns, like the mayor said, about the site location. This is a dead-end street. This is where, people chose to live on a quiet street, and for 1 month, it's not going to be quiet. One question I would have for you, are you going to advertise?
Yes, we were going to do some advertising.
So when advertisements go out, you have no idea at this point in time whether one person is going to hear that advertisement or 1,000 people.
Exactly.
So, your advertising might be really good, and you may exceed the 200 people in an hour for the evening. To break it down into one car every 2 minutes, let me tell you, I've gone to haunted houses, and it's not like one car pulls up every 2 minutes. There's 5 cars in a row, all the people going in at the same time. You're not going to be having people coming in at 10:32, 10:42, 10:52. So you are going to have bottlenecks. That's not a very wide road to begin with, which is a safety concern for myself or any police, fire, or ambulance that would have to come. I took a ride to the site this afternoon, and where the chain is hanging over the property to keep you from going in, I think I'm hearing that you'd be widening that, or
We'd be adding an additional temporary exit
a
out of there.
temporary exit. Okay. With the parking in the mud, with potentially having mud over there, and there is gravel down, are you going to clean the street every day, like we sometimes do in areas where construction is being done?
Actually, yes, we did actually talk about that. And so we say we do have enough cars that actually start causing some mud, and it is, you wouldn't actually be parked on the mud. Yes, you'll be on a field with actually,
On a field,
yeah, rather tall grass. But yeah, you're right. Mud could then come onto the streets.
Right.
And yes, we did think of that. Yes, we would possibly then just pay, I don't know if it's a city to get a street sweeper there or something else to clean up the streets, because we do want to make this as minimal to the neighbors. But I know you guys keep saying we'll be there for a month. I just want to clarify, it would just be 8 days, just Fridays and Saturdays. I did want to go broader days. I did want more originally, 13 days. But we did bring it down because, yes, we didn't want to disturb the neighbors. So we kept it just Friday and Saturday nights, 7 to 11. And if we did have a lot of cars, because you said we could get 1,000, I did want to bring up, with my track record, I will continue to do this for charity. And I am in contact with the Wheaton Franciscan Healthcare Foundation of St. Francis and Franklin, which then they do provide charity here in the community, because that is what Wheaton Franciscan Healthcare is about.
I think what you want to do is good. Okay. I just think it's in the wrong spot. When I first got wind of this, I actually thought you were going on some type of entrance off of 27th Street, and closer down to the as far south as you could go on that end. And yeah, that worked for me because I couldn't think of any other place where you'd be going. So when I did see that you were looking to go on Elm Road, I was quite surprised to see it was over there. So I've got concerns about the safety, the traffic, the noise, and the mess that has the potential to be there. One last question I would have for the mayor is, can we hear what the letter was that?
Sure, we can have it read.
It may turn out that they want it, but I'll take a chance here.
Let me just get the other 2 questions, and then we'll have Carrie read it. So, Commissioner Carrillo?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I appreciate what you're doing. I think I have a few teenagers, teenage boys, and there isn't a haunted house close in this area at all. I mean, they have to travel really far. So the idea of that, as well as the idea of helping the nonprofits or wherever the revenue would go towards. The parking, I know that we deal with church festivals, and we deal with, some of it in the middle of the summer and pouring rain, and we deal with parking on the grass, and there's ways around it with hay and other things. Can you explain why you chose this place?
Absolutely. Actually, Steve Spadell was a friend of Bill Nelson, where I used to run the cellar. And he just said, hey, why don't you talk to Steve? He actually owns a couple land. And Steve ended up just doing a very nice lease agreement with me at that property, well knowing that noise and traffic is going to be a problem. So that is the only reason we did pick this property was I did have a very sweet deal on the lease. So
Okay. Because, 8 days, I mean, it is very similar to a church festival. I mean, we have, music and the neighbors deal with it, and then it goes away, and it's only 8 days long. So I'm hoping that we can work out something that we can make it acceptable. for you.
and I know there's a lot of safety concerns. And I don't know if Mr. Kresick would like to address them, but I know I do have my remediations for any of the safety issues. So
Let's see, we got Commissioner Siepert.
Okay, I'd like to know the time of operation. You're going to have it from what to what, 7 at night till 10 or 11?
yeah, it'll be 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay, and then what's going to be the cost for people to come in on this?
Actually, you know what? That is still being bounced around because we do want to kind of go on a lower end because a lot of haunted houses charge ridiculous prices. And the target market around here are families with kids 10 years and older, and that's who we're going for. Knowing that kids usually don't pay for their, excuse me, kids usually don't pay for all their entertainment. The parents will, and usually they have a few that want to go. We did want to make a little bit of a lower price, but we didn't want to be a lower end, categorized as a lower end haunt. So still being tossed around somewhere between, I would say $15 and $25. And, that's somewhere, I mean, it's a pretty big margin, but like I said, we weren't too worried about that currently. We were more worried about addressing the temporary use.
What about the security? Do you have somebody that?
Yes, actually, security. One of our third partner, who isn't here right now, he's a Marine Corps veteran, and that's my brother. And he also does security over at, if you don't mind, I'm going to pull up that document he had printed off for me. So a list of accolades that includes him is uniform security at North America's largest retail store, which is the Nebraska Furniture Mart in Kansas City. He is also undercover security at the Nebraska Furniture Mart, and he was a control operator and emergency response team at the Nebraska Furniture Mart. And then he has training, including he has OC at OC Spray, which I couldn't answer what that is. Response to resistance, CPR and defibrillator training. He was personal security for Danica Patrick, Thomas Kincaid, and Trey Songs. And then his Marine Corps training include close quarters, battle course, he learned the planning and execution of emergency response, and he also has close quarter battles tactics and techniques and non-lethal submission.
Is your security plan one person?
No, we would have 3 other with him. Okay. So we would have a total of 4 security, and then also all of our volunteers, if you look at our emergency procedure reference guide, they would provide everyone would have a walkie-talkie, and they would then go to the command center, which then we would take their appropriate response.
Done, Fred?
That's it.
Okay, Carrie, would you read that letter from a resident into the record, please?
Sure. Dear Commissioners, unfortunately, I will not be able to attend your meeting on Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. Therefore, I would like you to consider this letter as representation for myself and my wife in regards to the proposed public Halloween haunted house event scheduled at 1720 West Elm Road, the weekends of October 2014. I, Michael J. McNew, and my wife, Tina M. McNew, reside at 1518 West Elm Road, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 53154. We made a financial commitment to purchase said property because it was located on a quiet, dead-end street in a residential setting away from noise and commercial events. We are in opposition of Nick Timber's juncture of holding a commercial for-profit event in our quiet residential neighborhood on Steve Spidel's, aka Hickory's Landscaping property. We believe this will cause severe traffic congestion on Elm Road and Highway V, aka 13th Street, which would prohibit myself and my family from entering and exiting our homestead in a timely manner. This event would also create a severe time delay in the event emergency vehicles should be needed. Also, my business of 22 years requires me to be on call 24 hours, 7 days a week. I choose to live on Elm Road because it provided quick access to County Road V. If there is traffic on Elm Road prohibiting my ability to fulfill my employment commitment, then I will be subject to financial hardship. My other concern is the introduction of our quiet neighborhood to the possibilities of property theft, vandalism, litter, and the consumption of alcohol and illegal narcotics. There are substantial protected wetlands surrounding Steve Spidel's property that would possibly be subject to damage. Also, these wetlands become quite deep, sometimes exceeding water depths of 5 feet or more. There is a potential drowning danger if small children or impaired adults should wander into these DNR protected areas. I believe this haunted house would propose a great danger to the well-being of my family, property, and other persons associated with my neighborhood. There is a right and wrong place for such an event. My neighborhood on Elm Road is the wrong place. Please do not allow this event to take place here in a residential neighborhood. Sincerely, Michael J. McNew.
And I agree with that residents, and probably most of the residents that are here. Again, I think you have a wonderful idea, but it's in the wrong place. And we can't just honor a business request because it makes sense for you or because it's for charity. We have to think about the implications to the neighborhood that it's going to affect, and this directly impacts the folks that live on Elm Road. And definitely cannot throw aside the security and safety concerns of the people that would be attending that event, given how hard it might be to get in there. So while I applaud you for, taking the time and effort to do this, I just can't endorse a concept that puts a haunted house at that location at that time of year. It makes no sense to me. And just because it got me at the beginning, just because we don't like ideas doesn't mean we have to not consider them. Our job as Plan Commission is to talk about the stuff that people bring forward. We don't get to pick out what we want to talk about. So for a resident to tell me that we shouldn't consider it is nonsense. He has a right to come forward. That's our job. So sorry for the speech, but that's what we have to do. So I apologize if I lost my temper with that individual, and I'll tell him that person if he's still here. But that's what we have to do here. That being said, I would ask my fellow commission members to make a motion to deny this application request because I don't think it's in the right place for a business like this, temporary or otherwise, for all the obvious reasons that I just stated. Any other comments or questions on 3A?
That's 4A.
4A, sorry.
Dickman makes a motion the Plan Commission not approve the temporary use as proposed in this location.
Malskill, second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
Greedy, aye.
Malsky, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
But thank you again for coming forward and doing it the right way.
Excellent.
And
Thank you
making
so
the
much.
request. Come forward if you have a question.
Mr. Mayor, might I say, it's when I made my recommendation, I said in this location.
Right.
And I guess that's what I was trying to get across to you. It's a great idea, but not in this location.
Well, my partner here just brought up a question here. Would Oak Creek be willing to work with me to find some land and maybe cut out a deal, and we can figure this out in a better spot? Because I'm self-motivated, solution-oriented, and I know I can do this. So
We will work with anybody that's interested in doing something positive, so the answer is yes.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Moving on to, it was 3A, Wally. It's 3B now.
What?
It was 3A, wasn't it?
Yeah.
4, it should have.
Now we're on 4A.
4A.
There's no more.
All right. We're moving to right-of-way vacation request by
Okay.
West Park LLC in the southwest quarter, northwest quarter, and northeast corner of the northeast quarter of Section 32, ABC Street. Carrie.
West Park is requesting that ABC Street in Oakview Business Park be vacated as the configuration shown in a previous CSM no longer matches the geometry of the public street right-of-way. The new street will actually be renamed to Oakview Parkway and dedicated as a public right-of-way. There are 2 additional requests with the vacation. One, that the no access restriction as currently depicted, which is along the north end here, on the south side of Oakwood Road be removed, and that the 2 50 by 50 vision corner easements at the north end of the current ABC Street be removed. So that's also in this area. According to the application, access restriction will be adjusted on the new CSM, as will be seen in the next 2 items on the agenda, and the vision corners will be part of the Oakview Parkway right-of-way. I think I will reserve a comment from the utility until the next CSMs, because I think it's more appropriate there. Having said that, though, the staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the ABC Street right-of-way in Oakview Business Park be vacated after a public hearing. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Any questions or comments on 4B?
Pretty straightforward.
Mr. Degner.
Mayor Scafidi, Arden Degner, 8540 South Pennsylvania Avenue. This is a remarkable series of surveyors. In fact, it looks like it's a nightmare, really, when you get into the rest of this, the other items on the agenda. The item that really got me involved is just exactly what you're saying here, is that access is denied. Now, here we have, probably not in this particular motion, but we have a street, we have a park, and only access is a 20-foot path to this park. Does that allow, as we heard before, in inclement weather, spring or fall, does that allow any access without being marooned in mud? And what I would ask you to do is to require a sidewalk access for every lot that's proposed here later on. Now, this particular road, it's interesting how it goes around, goes around the park, and no doubt we have a lot of wetland issues in that area. Don't you think that we should provide sidewalk access on every area? If this is a business park, then you have snow banks on either side. How can people access this without some type of walkway? Now, this is the time to put it in the following items that are on the agenda to make this safe, not only for the businesses to come, but for all those that are unable to park their vehicles within the particular area that allows access without slogging through mud or ice. Believe me, it's very dangerous out there without shoveling because of the ice and snow buildup. So I do not object to this. How it's interesting how this road now is an extension of Elm Road from the east, so that they could access the center of this business development and call it something else when it actually would end up emptying into Oakwood Road or vice versa. The trucks. That's one of the problems that we have. We have an access from the interstate now to Elm Road, but they can't access it. So you've got to do the best you can, and let's make this and make sure that this item is listed in the following. It doesn't show up on the surveyors. I called earlier this week and said, where is the sidewalk on these 14 pages of surveys? Oh, it's supposed to be there. Well, if access is denied here, how can anybody access the park? Well, it's not going to be a public park. It's going to have that's what I understand, a special permit. Oh, is this the type of park? Maybe this is, but at least make it safe for people to access it instead of a 20-foot wide, unpaved, mud, dirt, gravel path.
All right. Thanks for your comments, Mr. Degner. You're always the firm defender of sidewalks in the city. Yep. Yes, sir.
Jim Potter, 10656 South Howell. I'm sorry, ma'am, I did not understand what is being done up here. Is this whole road being vacated so there is no access or from Oakwood Road?
No, this is one of three pertaining to this property tonight. What they are doing is proposing, as this is an officially mapped road, to vacate this portion and reconfigure it in a different location on this property. So this is just one part of three.
Where else would it come out then?
It's close to the same location, but just not in that exact location.
It would come out on Oakwood Road, yeah?
Right.
Yeah.
East of Opus Drive.
Yes.
No.
No? West.
Commissioner Johnson?
It's lined up with Opus Drive. This item here is
Oh,
house
sorry.
cleaning.
Is what?
Is just house cleaning items. This is an existing road that was platted on a previous CSM. The new CSM and the following pages here, following actions, have the new road alignment on there. So we need to vacate this out so we can have the new correct road.
Where's the new road going?
The new road will tie in at Opus, at Oakwood, and run down through and come out at Elm Road.
Yeah.
There are sidewalks on both sides. It's a 70-foot right-of-way.
So it's still gonna come out on, by Opus Road?
Yes.
Opus
Yeah.
there?
Yes.
Both ways.
Okay.
It just loops around, comes down the west side of the park, and then comes back up.
Much
and-
like it was?
Yes.
So you're just, okay, but.
Yeah.
This isn't any new
Because
ground.
the thing that we got in the mail regarding this change, you know, it made it look like they're vacating the whole road.
On this action, we are.
Yeah. But we're,
This action
Well,
is from a previous
I
CSM.
wish that when you send these things out, it'd be a little more explicit
they send them all out.
and not so vague, you know, we're taking the road out. Well, wait a minute.
Yeah, sometimes we get caught up in the technical stuff and we forget to explain it to the regular.
Yeah, I know, so, okay.
It's a good point. But it is, he's right, Commissioner Johnson, it is technical cleanup, basically. And there will be a beautiful road going through that property. And actually, for that park's sake, there's actually access to it where there is none currently. So people that talk about we don't do enough green things in the city, here's a chance to add one more to the list. Good spot for a haunted house. Other questions on 4B? Seeing none, motion on 4B.
Come on, somebody.
Johnston moves that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the ABC Street right-of-way in Oakview Business Park be vacated after a public hearing.
Chandler, second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Tweedy, aye.
Malsky, aye.
Sleeper, aye.
Chandler, aye.
4C, review of a certified survey map submitted by Jerry Frankie, West Park LLC for the property at 405 West Oakwood Road, 641 West Oakwood Road, 10303 South Howell Avenue, 10711 South Howell Avenue. Tax keys numbers as listed. Carrie.
So this is the second part to that first question. This is actually defining where the new road will go along with certain easements on the property. I just lost my staff report, sorry about that. So the purpose is to redivide the land into 4 parcels and establish the public dedications for rights-of-way and easements. There are 2 easements that I'd like to point out that are not showing up here, but do show up on our current GIS. It's a little hard to see here, but it's in this location here. And that's for a water main. That's part of CSM 8154. In order to make this line up with the road, it'll have to be vacated and moved. That can be made part of the CSM and the subsequent CSM that's on the agenda for tonight. There's also a comment about access on Howell Avenue. And let me just bring that map up again. Along this portion of Howell Avenue and down here, the CSM currently does not have a restriction on Howell Avenue, but because Howell Avenue is controlled by the county, there would be no permitted access. If I could ask for Commissioner Johnston's help a little bit here.
It's a technicality, really. There's a detention pond that sits up here, so there wouldn't be any driveways that would be allowed to come out to Howell Avenue. Same thing here, there's another detention pond here, it drains down this way. We just don't want to have driveways coming out. We want to keep this controlled at Elm Road and the same way down through here so that there's no access out to Howell Avenue. The rest of it is just easements and platting of the road right away going through there.
Good. Good detail. Any other questions or comments on that? Motion on 4C?
Johnson recommends that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Gerald Frankie, West Park LLC for the properties at 641 West Oakwood Road, 10303 South Howell Avenue, 10711 South Howell Avenue be approved, subject to any technical corrections being made prior to the recording.
Moleskine, second.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Frillo, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Moleskine, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Item 4D is the last piece of the changes. Certified survey map review submitted by Jerry Frankie, West Park LLC for the property at 405 West Oakwood Road, 641 West Oakwood Road, 10303 South Howell, and 10711 South Howell. Tax key numbers as listed. Carrie.
Okay, this is the last of the three parts for this property, and this one is more for conveyance purposes. There is another, there was one comment that was received by engineering regarding the configuration of Lot 15 here. The recommendation was for a perpendicular radial to the right-of-way, which was explained to me that there would be like a dog leg for the property line here rather than straight to the Oakview Parkway Road. There are two comments that I should have mentioned on the other CSM as well. Comments received from the Department of Transportation about a 5-foot signage easement, which needs to be included on Lot 15 for the bike path, which is right here. And also a 52-foot reservation for future road purposes, also needed on Lot 15 for the expansion of Wisconsin 38. With that, the staff recommendation is that the Plan Commission recommend to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by West Park LLC for Oakview Business Park be approved, subject to technical corrections. Mr. Mayor.
Are there an actual bike path or just a space for a bike path? You know?
I do not.
Sorry.
Is there going to be a bike path designated out there? Or is that just a space for a bike path?
There is a bike path that is coming to tie into the Oakleaf Trail on Howell Avenue. That'll come up the Howell west side of the right-of-way and then tie in with Elm Road here. There'll be on-street bike accommodations through the development and sidewalks on both sides.
Excellent.
Through the development.
Hear that, Mr. Degner?
Great.
All right. Questions on 4D? Any comments?
Yeah, a question I
Go ahead.
have, Steve, is the intersection of Howell and Elm there. Are they going to put some type of controls? That's a bad corner, that hill coming up on 38 and coming on an Elm. So now you're going to add more traffic. I'm just wondering, would that be a controlled intersection, or would they try to get that controlled?
Mr. Johnson?
No, it is not going to be a controlled intersection. It meets all the design requirements for sight distances through there, and it does not warrant at this time for signals to be installed. There'll be a stop controlled on Elm Road as it is currently. In the future, there is a potential, depending on how this gets built out, that they could meet the warrants at that time for for signals to be installed, but not currently.
Okay.
I agree with you on Elm Road, though. I'd come off going westbound, turning right on Howell, and it is hard to see sometimes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
One more comment. I did speak with the surveyor, who I believe is here. This GSM actually has irregularly numbered lots, and based on our understanding from the requirements of Milwaukee County, the lots would need to be numbered in sequential order rather than as presented here.
Okay.
Sequential starting with one.
Right, starting with 1.
Okay.
Is that a technical correction or
Yes.
what?
Okay. We can handle that afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion on 4D.
Dickman makes a motion, the Plan Commission recommend to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by Jerry Frankie, West Park LLC for the properties at 641 West Oakwood Road, 10303 South Howe Avenue, 10711 South Howe Avenue be approved, subject to any technical corrections being made prior to recording.
Johnston seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Malsky, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
That being said, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Before I do that, I just want to recognize gentleman to my right, Tom Mahowski. It's his last Plan Commission meeting. He served city for 8 years. Done a tremendous job. Anybody that's sat in these chairs understands the requirements of the job and the things you have to do and the phone calls you have to take, and he did it very well for 8 years, so I thank him for his service. Motion to adjourn.
Carrillo moves to adjourn at 6:45.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Dickman, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
Speedy, aye.
Malsky, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Thank you. Have a great night. We'll see you next Tuesday.